Hey everyone, welcome to the program, WRSA Radio. I am your host, Grenadier One. As always, I hope you are having a good week and a happy New Year. I hope you all had a very good Christmas and a safe New Year's Eve. I had a great time. Spent time with family and friends. Met some new friends along the way. It was very cool. Very cool. Had some we had that crazy weather that we were all dealing with. Most of us were dealing with across the country, I guess. A very, very cold Christmas weekend there, but we all managed to get through at least around here. I want to start the show out by asking you all to keep David from NC Renegade in your thoughts. He had an emergency surgery over the holidays. As far as I know, he's doing well, but let's at least wish him a speedy recovery while you are thinking of others. Maybe head on over there to his page and check it out and give him a well wish if you would. So, also, and this is kind of the main focus of what the show is going to be about today. I had a chance to get together with Concerned American over the last week, and we sat down for dinner and we had a good conversation. And I wanted to start with that today because I think it's the most important and will hopefully give an idea of kind of how we're approaching 2023 or kind of what our thoughts are going into this new year, at least from the perspective of what we're planning with the show and his page and the efforts and things that we were doing. So we were discussing what our focus for 23 should be. And we like to kind of keep at least parallel with one another on the his blog, his page, and my show, so that we're tracking, we're running in the same general direction at least. I don't always cover the same kind of topics or same stuff as the show, and it's more of an augment, or as his page, it's more of an augment for the page. But we at least like to kind of be aligned on where we're going with things. So we sometimes sit down and have this kind of a vague planning discussion. It's not really a hard and fast rule of this is what we're going to do. It's, hey, what about this? What about this kind of thing? So we first talked about the topic I mentioned a few shows back regarding leaders or leadership. And right now we're gathering some reading material to put together some quality episodes on a few different people that I want to highlight as leaders, and CA may as well, so you may see some parallel articles or things posted on his page and on my show as well about the same individuals. What good leaders look like. First ones that we do going to be military leaders, because I think that's just kind of they're the best examples, or the most obvious examples when you start talking about leadership. You're taking people into harm's way. That's where leadership probably matters. I don't know that it matters the most, but it at least has it's the most obvious impact. So we'll go into that as first, and then we have some political leaders as well that we will be looking at, and that's going to be an ongoing thing throughout the year. I want to basically do as much research as I can on people and put together kind of a tightly focused presentation for each one. So, I need time to do that. It's not something that I can, like a normal show, I tend to put those together on Thursday. That's not what I want to do with these. I want to spend some time and kind of lay out, a little bit more planned episode for that. So those will take some time. I can't say when the first one will be, but I'm going to try to get one in the next few weeks, at least by the end of January. I just have to figure out what I'm going to do, and which one I'm going to run with first, and tackle first. So look for that upcoming. We discussed that, and then we moved on to what he and I can do to help drive narrative and increase the media game in general, at least from our standpoint. It was our agreed opinion that our side needs to step up its media game this year. We need to be putting out better material and a better coordinated message like the other side does. If you notice, when things happen, the other side takes advantage of them, and they have a very coordinated response to those events or those national discussions. And yes, it can mean, it could mean that they have prior knowledge, whether they orchestrated an event or whether they drove a discussion to happen, like, oh, we're putting together a protest about something, so we're going to drive that, we're going to make that a focus, and we're going to talk about that, so it's not necessarily something sinister when I say they orchestrated it, but that very well could be the case. But it doesn't have to be. A well-run and experienced operation can act so quickly that it looks like prior knowledge. It looks like, it's all connected, but it doesn't have to be. It's just good at what it does. These you can't deny that the leftist control of the media is very efficient and very very well run. It's just self-evident. It only takes a few emails or text messages, as we are seeing from some of these Twitter file releases, and things get controlled and focused. And they have a lot of willing participants. You don't have to coerce people who are willing to do things. So we need something like that on our side as well. We tend to founder and kind of flap around for hours or days to get people on message, and very often it's not even the same message. It's some flavor of message with, every presenter's individual opinion adding to it or filtering it. And there just doesn't seem to be any kind of unified effort from our side, and no leadership in that area either. And that's, back to what I was talking about earlier. But let's face it, though, we're not a media giant conglomerate here, so of course we're not really expecting that we will be able to pull bigger names and personalities into this necessarily. The idea is just to get as many different trad media people on board as we can into this kind of informal circle that maybe communicates and agrees to tackle topics, at the same time or in a similar fashion. The desired outcome is that we can get in front of things and begin to actually drive narrative and not be completely in reaction mode. And that's where I've been for some time now myself. I'm in a place where I have to create ideas for the show because honestly, the available content that is happening right now is just so fake and dull and repetitive that it's just not really interesting to talk about. I don't think you want to hear my take on the sports ball guy that collapsed on the field. Everyone's talking about that. I watched it happen live. I knew exactly what the likely cause of it was, and as I'm sure most of you knew. So why do I need to spend more than those last two sentences there talking about it? It's just something that happened, and until it becomes a bigger impacting event, it's not really worthy of discussion, I don't think. That is what big media does. It drives the narrative because it has the time. Think of the daily media cycle as a kind of currency that is measured in time. Every minute on the air has to be spent on something, and I use air loosely here. It can be stream or print media, whatever, visual, whatever, any media. Every minute that your audience is consuming your content is the currency here. And when you have that currency, you decide how to spend it. And when you have 10 different outlets and they're all spending their currency on the same thing, then it really does not matter if the consumer goes from one outlet to another. They're going to get some flavor of that same story presented in a similar fashion and containing the same programming. And that's what that whole movement to alternative media is about. People wanting to get out of that cycle. Now, before you say, well, yeah, gee, but aren't you talking about doing the same thing? Well, yeah, yes, I am, and no, I'm not. I'm not telling you that this is the way things should be. What I'm telling you is that this is what your enemies are doing. And there are times that in order to counter what your enemies are doing, you have to do it to them first or do it better than they do. Sometimes you get driven into using tactics that you may not have otherwise wanted to use. and that's just a normal course of conflict. And you get to the point where you can do it better than the other guy. Maybe you take that tactic off the table. They can't do it anymore, or they decide it's not worth them doing anymore. So that's, again, it's not necessarily what we want to do, but it's just something that I think needs to be done, or something that needs to be explored. And this is one of those times. Like I said, I have no illusions that we would ever be able to achieve the kind of reach and power that legacy media has, at least on an individual basis. But if we can exert some coordination and organization, then we can possibly influence enough of the other independent outlets to at least run in the same direction. I don't want to control everything. That's not what we're talking about. Again, we're just two guys. We're just a couple of guys, or even a handful of guys, just people who are doing an alternative view on things, or an alternative take on things. And I don't expect that we would have the ability to start driving a huge national narrative. But the idea is just to present a common purpose and common targets, if you will, so that lots of little guys can kind of swarm those topics and targets and hit them from all different directions, within close timing, which is a 4G warfare kind of tactic, kind of thing. But that's really what it is. It's a media assault on people. You don't have to be the big player if you can overcome that with numbers. You may not be the 1,000-pound gorilla, but the 1,000-pound gorilla can lose to 1,000 jackals or something like that. So this is just something that we're working on. So I can't go into much more detail yet because it's still kind of in its infancy. But we have some things in the works. There's some things that we're really thinking about that kind of put us on this thought process. So we'll push it forward, and I'll update you when I can, or maybe I will not. Maybe it might be the first time that you notice that something's going on is when you begin to see the same topics and ideas appearing on many of your favorite alternate media sites, and from your favorite alt media creators or whatnot. So we'll see how it works out. I don't know. It's just something that we're kind of tossing around right now and working on. So the other thing that we're going to be focusing on this year is to renew and revisit the idea of meat space activity. We're throwing around some ideas about just general training, and again, I use that term loosely as well, because what we're thinking is something like the hikes that we did back at the beginning of 22, just a bit more organized and coordinated, so that we have multiple ones going on in different areas. It's just maybe even doing some range trips, radio classes, something like that. Ideally, we want to get to something that is like I don't want to use the term competition, but I'll use that with the air quotes here. But think of it as something like the Ruck March Challenge or something like that. You would be competing against yourself for your best personal performance, not against others as much, as maybe the clock or shooting score or something like that. But there might be something like I'm thinking like a tactical triathlon, where there's a hike of some distance, and then you have a shooting stage, and then there's some kind of communication stage, and you keep score along the way. And I'm not sure when that would happen, or when we're going to be able to put something like that together. As I said, it's kind of in its early stages as well, but it's something that I think we can do fairly simple, and it doesn't have to be a big well-oiled machine right out of the bat. So we'll see what we can get put together, and maybe if you guys are interested in something like that, if we've got some folks who might be interested in putting something like that together and operating or running it in your local area, that would be awesome too. You could, we could all work together to kind of coordinate those things and run them in multiple locations so that people can get out to them. Because with all these things, the problem always comes down to getting the word out, and we rely very heavily on word of mouth, and getting people to, get off their fat asses and travel to do things. So for some reason, we have a lot of people who just can't find it in themselves to move their bodies beyond the path from the couch to the refrigerator, which does not bode well for any idea of organized resistance of anything. If you can't travel a few hours to hike 5 miles with people that you need to get to know, then how can anyone trust you will be in the bushes at 0300 when it's time to do bad things to bad people? I have a hard time getting my head around that mindset that people have. And I know that, I myself am a lazy ass a lot of the times. Even, if I can get out and do these things, I know that you all can too. Like I said, I have a hard time wrapping my head around that. Why do people think this way? Why do people expect someone else is going to do it all for them? I don't know. Tell people about these things. Spread the word. When we put out one of these events and we put something together, it's very easy to become disgusted and turned off by the whole idea of doing these things if you go through the effort and the trouble to put together things and people don't show up. That is so discouraging. We need people to spread the word, even if you don't plan to attend an event, or maybe it's just because the timing doesn't work out. Hey, this is something I would do, but I can't because that weekend I've got a wedding to go to, or something that is that you just can't get out of, surgery, whatever. That's fine. Tell other people so that they know, and encourage them to attend, especially if you've got new people. If you've got the ones that are just figuring out that things are not as they have seemed and that there is a problem, get the word to those people. The guy that just bought that new AR and he has no training, direct him to these kind of events. We will instruct people in basic course of fire and safety, and now that guy has been exposed to that material, and then you can start working with them yourself, to bring them up to a little bit higher speed. We still have some time here, but something else needs to be said. A long time back, a smart guy said, "We're screwed. There's going to be a fight. Let's win." Well, guys, we've been screwed. Okay, that's over. We're smoking cigarettes at this point. The fight is already going, and we're in the let's win stage. You have time, but you can't spend that time sitting on your hands hoping and wishing other people would do something, because that's not winning. It's not what winning looks like. Well, I really hope that those guys will get out there and do that for me because I can't be bothered. Right now, as I write this show, there's a clown show taking place in the House of Representatives. It's a complete, well, it's not completely irrelevant because it's symptomatic of the bigger picture and the bigger fight that is taking place. It's a political manifestation of this whole conflict. We have the GOP in charge of the House, and that means they get to elect who the Speaker of the House is going to be, and that person is, 2 seats down from the president. So yes, it is important in the larger scheme of things when we look at those kind of things. The choice is the insider swamp ass Kevin McCarthy, or really anyone else. Anybody else could do a much better job than this guy. But McCarthy is an establishment GOP piece of shit that will do what the GOP does, which is to lose with some modicum of decorum, all the while telling you how scared of the Dems you should be, and that they will do better next time if you just send them more money. They are the political party version of Ukraine. We're winning, guys. Really, these people are evil. Just send us another billion. That's why McCarthy walks around with that Yuki flag on his coat all the time. They are two sides of the same coin. It's a micro version and a macro version of the same grift that's taking place. They're made for each other. It's really, Zelensky coming here in his tactical T-shirt to do a presentation or a speech in front of Congress. It's also tiresome. What we are seeing played out is the future of the political axis of this fight. We have one aspect of the GOP that is wanting to deliver the knockout punch to the populist movement that President Trump put into motion, and drag everybody back into this, controlled, very narrow narrative. And then the other side that is pushing to at least tacitly move that populist movement forward and continue what was started. I don't know the validity of that side, the Matt Getz and Jim Jordan and those guys. I have to believe they're sincere. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's all grift. Who can say anymore these days? But at least on the surface and at a little bit deeper level, they seem sincere. It seems like they want to at least play the part of pushing the official or the public version of the populist movement, or trad movement, if you will. And that is the faction that we want to win here. I don't really have any expectations that they would accomplish much, but we have to give that political axis at least a presence, okay? At least we at least have to put something on the field there. It's one of the arms of combat, and we have to have it in place, because we can't win with just that political arm, but we will surely lose if we don't have it. Okay, they have to at least play the part. Again, whether they can really achieve too much in the face of all of that is aligned against them is a whole different story. But you at least have to put players out there, So it's worth spending a little time watching this, but I don't have a lot of faith in it that it will turn out in our favor or considerably move the ball forward for us. So that's why the things that we do on our own outside of this political process, it's the other arms of the of service, or the other arms of conflict, those are probably more important because of the futility of what is going on politically. We have to get out. You have to be doing this training, getting yourself ready and more prepared for what is coming. Honestly, if you're not already, it's probably not going to work out well. But hey, you still, again, you've got to put players on the field if you want to play the game. That's you lose every game you don't put people out there to play. That's a forfeit, to continue the sports ball metaphor. But anyway. That's all I got time for this week. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I look forward to what 2023 is going to bring us. I'm still holding out for Giant Meteor. Got my fingers crossed. But we shall see. Maybe Vlad will deliver for us. I don't know. Until then, we keep doing what needs to be done. We help those that need help. We keep sharpening our hatchets, and we keep carrying and speaking the message. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership, and I will see you on the next episode.